Welcome to The Explainer. When we think of Albert Einstein, we almost always picture the universally beloved, white-haired sage of modern physics. But to really understand the true genesis of his greatest work, we're going to have to step into the shadows of history. We have to travel back to the years 1914 and 1915. It was a profoundly dramatic era of his life, wrapped in this deep historical and personal paradox. This was a crucible, really, where the majestic harmony of the cosmos was being mapped out amidst the absolute darkest depths of human chaos.
To kill in wartime, it seems to me, is in no ways better than common murder. Just take a second to reflect on that statement. It perfectly captures the unwavering pacifism that defined his public life. Yet it also serves as a sort of haunting mirror. Because as we explore his story today, we're going to uncover the sheer duality of a man who is passionately striving for global peace, right while his own personal world, his home, his marriage, his family, was collapsing into total, unrecognizable ruin.
Chapter 1. Berlin and the Storm. Okay, let's dive into this. In early 1914, Einstein makes a truly monumental transition. The German capital essentially beckoned him with an offer that was, well, impossible for any physicist to refuse. We're talking a position at the University of Berlin, directorship of the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Physics, and a professorship completely free from teaching duties. It was the ultimate academic sanctuary. But the pull wasn't strictly professional. He was equally drawn to Berlin by a clandestine, blossoming relationship with his cousin, Elsa Lowenthal. So this incredible professional triumph was actually masking a massive brewing personal storm.
Just look at the staggering sequence of these events. It all happened so fast. In April 1914, Einstein arrives in Berlin, his mind entirely set on revolutionizing physics. Just a few months later, on July 28th, the fragile peace of Europe completely shatters and World War I breaks out. And then, literally the very next day, July 29th, his wife Mileva packs up and leaves Germany for Zurich. It's fascinating, really. The rapid, chaotic outbreak of this massive global conflict perfectly mirrored the sudden, devastating collapse of his own marriage.
Chapter 2. Resisting the Global War.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how isolated he became. On one hand, you have the Manifesto of the 93. This was a document signed by nearly 100 prominent German academics and Nobel laureates, basically throwing their full intellectual weight behind the German military effort. On the other hand, you have Einstein's counter-document. He flatly refused to sign that pro-war manifesto. Instead, he co-drafted the Manifesto to the Europeans. This was a bold, desperate plea for a common European culture and an immediate end to the bloodshed. It was an act of profound intellectual rebellion against almost all of his peers. But here we really need to pause. We have to ask ourselves, how does a man who so beautifully advocates for global peace, for the unity of all mankind, simultaneously wage a deeply cruel private war?
Before we explore the dark domestic trials that fueled his isolation, please take a quick moment to subscribe to @FamousLivesBio and like this explainer to support more biographical explainers. It really helps us keep decoding the complexities of history for you.
Chapter 3. The Domestic Fracture.
Right as that global war began, Einstein's marriage to his fellow physicist, Mileva Marić, experienced a total breakdown. Now, Mileva had been a brilliant student, the only woman in their physics course at the Zurich Polytechnic, actually, and she was a vital sounding board for his early ideas. Yet, by 1914, Einstein was deeply involved with Elsa, and he had made a very conscious, determined decision to end his relationship with his first wife. And unfortunately, this led to an extraordinary display of systemic emotional cruelty.
Now, what's really interesting here is the chilling, almost clinical nature of the conditions he laid out. To maintain the mere facade of a marriage, Einstein presented Mileva with a list of incredibly harsh demands. She was required to clean his clothes and bedsheets. She was to deliver 3 meals a day directly to his study. She was to expect absolutely no intimacy whatsoever. And perhaps most severely, she had to immediately cease speaking to him the moment he requested it. The sheer contrast is just staggering, isn't it? A public champion of peace effectively reducing his wife to an unpaid, silent servant.
The conclusion to those demands was, of course, inevitable. Unable to endure that kind of humiliation and degradation, Mileva fled. On that fateful day in July 1914, she took their 2 young sons, Hans Albert and Eduard, and she returned to Switzerland. The separation was permanent. And suddenly, Einstein was entirely alone in Berlin. His domestic life was erased, his ideological peers were alienated by his pacifism, and his family was completely gone.
Chapter 4. A Solitary Masterpiece.
I want you to just imagine the scene for a second. Outside his window, an entire continent is tearing itself apart in the most devastating war humanity had ever seen. But inside his apartment, there's total silence. No wife, no children, no colleagues who shared his worldview. In this severe, melancholic solitude, completely alienated from the earthly world, Einstein dove entirely into the deep, beautiful cosmos of his own mind. It's as if he built a fortress of mathematics to escape the madness outside.
So the crucial point is this magnificent culmination. Out of that absolute silence came the general theory of relativity in 1915. He elegantly rewrote our entire understanding of reality, proving that the force of gravity isn't just some invisible pull between objects, but it's the actual curvature of space and time itself. It was a literal, world-changing scientific breakthrough, born from a mind operating in total, absolute isolation.
And that right there is the ultimate paradox of Albert Einstein during these years. His crowning achievement, a theory that beautifully explains the majestic, flawless harmony and order of the universe, was birthed during a period of severe, bloody global warfare and deep domestic cruelty. He was mapping out a pristine cosmos right in the middle of a fractured, deeply flawed human reality.
We're going to leave you with this final, lingering thought today. Decades later, near the very end of his life, Einstein signed the Russell-Einstein Manifesto, which was a warning against nuclear war. In it, he wrote, "We appeal as human beings to human beings. Remember your humanity and forget the rest." It's a profound plea from a man who spent his whole life unraveling the stars, yet constantly wrestled with the immense complexities, contradictions, and flaws of his own earthly humanity. So, what does it mean for a genius to completely understand the universe, but struggle so deeply with the human heart? Keep seeking, keep learning, and thank you so much for joining us for this explainer.